How do you buy a business safely in industries that you don't know? Today we're going to talk about how to buy companies with management in place. It's one of the ways that you can get into a great industry, even if you don't know a whole ton about it. Part of our 5-part series on this topic, how to buy businesses in industries that you don't know about safely. Okay, so we're talking about how to buy businesses safely in industries that we don't know a whole lot about. We've already talked about a few different models to accomplish that. Apprenticing, getting involved in industry peer groups, getting a partner who's an industry expert. Right now we're talking about finding businesses that already have management in place. And this is the simplest, easiest way to get into new industries. Just find somebody who's already doing it. And so whenever we go into businesses and we look at whenever we're trying to buy a company that we really don't want to be into today, this is what we're looking at, these 4 quadrants. What does the sales and marketing look like? What does product look like? Do we have to create a new product every 3 years, for example, because the industry's changing so quickly? With sales and marketing, it's how tightly do we have to manage the sales and marketing to make sure that the business continues to be profitable? With production and operations, are the processes, procedures, production flows, is all of that mapped out and running pretty smooth? And then under people and leadership is, do we know how to manage people? Do people know what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, what the expectations for them are? Is their incentives aligned with the outputs that we want from them? And so we assess all of these because these are the major 4 parts of pretty much every business. And if any of these are below maintenance level, it puts it into a different category for us. It's kind of like almost like a turnaround. Is it a lot of effort to get it to a certain point? And so that changes how we think about it and the method that we use. But if we find that in all 4 of these quadrants, all of these can kind of maintain themselves with the current staff without a ton of trouble, like I'm not saying that everything's got to be perfect. Usually maintenance means that there's problems, right? Growth typically indicates that we're improving things. It's just typically what happens whenever we improve stuff. So we're just trying to get to maintenance level output in all these quadrants. And then we want to understand also which one of these quadrants, if we move the needle on it, would be exponential. So sometimes you've got a company that has great production capacity and operations flow. They have pretty good people management skills. People know what to do generally. And they have a good product that customers like. But maybe they're just kind of like, okay, at sales and marketing. The focus for us will be, well, how do we help sales and marketing to improve? How do we take it to the next level? And we put our focus here. And typically that focus, because you've got all the other pieces of the puzzle solved, usually it's a lot easier to grow that company. It becomes exponential. Whenever you guys solve for multiple quadrants to get that exponential growth, it's more work. It's really simple, right? More things. So we're looking for one quadrant that we can kind of push on to get really exponential results. And that's the kind of the biggest bang for your buck move that you can make with a company that has management in place. And it allows you to also, the reason why we do it is it allows you to not be in the day-to-day all the time. You can get in, you can get out, and you can move on. The problem is you've really got to be able to find a business big enough. And so for most people who are watching this video, you might think, a business that's $2-3 million, I can't afford that. And we would, other videos will show you how you can pull that off. But I would encourage you to still, if you are talented at this, if you're young, you're still getting started, you're in your early 20s, and you've never ran something on your own, Maybe doing a micro acquisition so that you can kind of learn all the different parts of the business. That might be smart so that you don't make a really huge mistake. But it's actually easier to grow a little bit larger company. And so there's actually less risk. That's a statistic. That's not a Matt Duckworth opinion. Statistically, businesses that are bigger have lower default rates on their loans. So that tells you something in the numbers, right? So I would encourage you to, especially if you can kind of mix and match some of these, it would almost be, well, not almost, it would be more valuable to you and faster to get to your goals if you brought on a partner, you guys spent some time in industry groups, or maybe you apprentice on something, but you went ahead and found a deal that was a little bit larger, and you put the money together to go buy it whenever you found it. A lot of search groups want you to raise the money to go search, and we think that that's pretty, I'm not going to knock those people, but it's expensive. It's expensive money. So we're here to help you get as wealthy as possible, as quickly as possible, safely. So that's one of the reasons why we say look for a little bit bigger deal size. And if you got a great deal, a lot of times you'd be surprised that you can put the money together to get that. So that's why we say look for these larger deals, but this is only where you're going to probably find it most of the time. There are probably exceptions to this, but this is typically what I've seen. And so finally, you can look at all this stuff, and whenever you first go look at a business, the business owner is going to be like, yeah, it runs itself, it's okay, it's great, everything's working great, everything's perfect, all right? We all know that's not true, though. And so one of the tests that you can apply to this is how much input is required by the seller to maintain any one of these quadrants. If you hear that by asking questions that are not like, is this good or is this bad? How do you feel about it? How many times a week do you meet with the salespeople? What do you talk about in the sales meeting? Can you show me can I sit in on a sales meeting? Can you tell me about product improvements and the history of that? Just get the facts, ma'am, right? Production. Walk me through the production flow. What kind of documentation do you have this? Show me how you train somebody. How often are you here for production meetings? What do you talk about in those meetings? Is there a person on the org chart who's responsible for each one of these? Those are big keys. People in leadership. Can I sit in on a leadership meeting? What's your philosophy on management? Just learning a few of these things, then also trying to understand, if you can get a chance to talk to employees, if you get deep enough into the deal, a lot of times you can ask some questions that will uncover all these. So these are tests to do your due diligence on whether or not all of these quadrants meet maintenance level. So that's how to assess deals with management in place so that you can get into an industry that maybe you don't understand completely, you're not worked in for a long time, and you can do it safely. So hope that helps. I'll see you in the next video.